Hi there, welcome to Fresh Air at 5. In this episode, we're going to talk about some artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about some other great stuff. And then at the very end of the episode, I've got a very special announcement for you. So if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, you could fast forward all the way to the very end, the very last segment after the outro. And I've got a special announcement for you there. We are on episode 199 of Fresh Air at 5. Episode 200 comes out next week. That's what these special announcements about. So go take a listen, and I want to hear your voice. Thanks. Without further ado, episode 199.
I'm Angela Kelly Robeck, host of the Empowered Principal Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwe First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey PLN, January 6th. 2025. Good morning to you. Good morning to Shanna and Fuzz in Wisconsin as we are celebrating episode 200 of Tech Tools for Teachers today. Congratulations. You guys crossed another milestone. So very exciting. And I've got some of those wow feelings going on with me as I'm going to cross that line probably next week. So, yes, I want to say happy 200 to you, and it was super cool to hear the beginning of your intro for episode 1. You talked about Google Keep and Padlet back in your episode 1, and now you're revisiting it 6 years later, talking about the updates, changes, and all the goodness that's going on with AI in these tools. So take a listen to what Shanna has to say, subscribe, because she's got good for you in your classroom. Happy Monday. Bye-bye. One more thing for January 6, 2025. Happy New Year, Suzanne Daly and Teach Happier community as we get rolling on 2025. We're already on our 6th day in, effective now, and I really am happy that it's 2025. It's crazy to think I've been here in British Columbia for 25 years, but lots is going on, lots is happening. My children are growing up, and all kinds of goodness is going on. Today, I listened to episode 16 of season 5 of Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly, as she brings us an idea from Gretchen Rubin, who has her New Year's list, and talks about how we can have a list of things that we want to do in 2025. Suzanne took and broke that list down into 4 compartments, because once she got to episode number 7, it became overwhelming. I'm going to stop right now. I'll come right back. One more thing for January 6, 2025, continuing my thoughts on episode 16 of season 5 of Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly. She took her list of 25 things that seemed overwhelming to write down. What do you want to do in 2025? And put them into 4 boxes. Things that we will continue, things that we will stop, things that we will continue, consider, and things that we will, oh my goodness, start as well. So there's start, stop, continue, and consider. And I like that, Suzanne, because that is more palatable to me too. And this year I've been trying to think about how to do New Year's stuff with my students. And I like this model. So I'm going to maybe dig into that with them this week, and I'll maybe report back how it goes. All right, without further ado, have a fabulous Monday, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye. The last thing for January 6, 2025. All right, I wanted to say to Suzanne that I'm glad to hear that you got a new recording space for Teach Happier. That's so good. I'm glad to hear that because I was actually talking with a group of content creators on Friday at lunch about how you talked about recording in your closet, because a friend of mine, Lauren McLean, records in her little closet in her house. That's her family buzzes about her place as well. All right, a call to action, please. I'm calling you out to contribute to my episode 200 as a guest voice on Fresh Air at 5. If you could send me a 1 to 2 minute snippet or even 30 seconds snippet of you talking about how Fresh Air at 5 has impacted you, or just your connection with me, or what does it mean to podcast, I would be glad to put that into my podcast. So that's the call to action. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, it's Wednesday, December 8, 2025. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Out for Fresh Air at 5 today, and I am enjoying my walk. It's 4 degrees Celsius. We have a thin cloud cover, and it's not raining. It is dry at the moment, and I'm thankful for that. So this morning, I listened to episode 117 of Evolving with Gratitude with Lainey Rowell, as Lainey brings us a conversation that she had with Angela Duckworth, the author of the book called Grit. And it was fascinating to listen to Lainey and Angela talk about grit and about sticking to something and perseverance and the hard work that is for a long period of time that can eventually change a person's outcome of where they are going. The book has, or the podcast here, has Angela and Lainey continue to talk about other things, and I'm getting to that in just 1 second. One more thing for December 8, 2025, continuing my thoughts on episode 117 of Evolving with Gratitude. Angela Duckworth and Lainey are talking about grit, and they're also talking about situations and the situational agency that affects our outcome of where we are. If we put a gritty person, she says, into a rough and hard situation, will they survive? Maybe not. But if we affect the situation to be better than it is and change our situation and have agency in our situation, we can have an outcome that is positive. Thankful to hear that, because that's important. We are not victims of our situations. We can affect the environment that we live in. And also having a mentor, someone that knows a little bit more than you. Doesn't have to be older. It doesn't have to be, for a long, long time, but it has to be somebody that knows something more than you. Thanks, Lainey. Thanks, Angela. Have a great day. One more thing for December 8, 2025. Yes, still continuing my thoughts on episode 117 of Evolving with Gratitude. Yes, I rushed through that last bit, but if we have people in our lives that we can look to for advice and help about situations, it could be a momentary mentor, it could be a short-term mentor, it could be a project mentor, it could be someone even for the lifetime that can make a difference in your life, then we need to take hold of these people. My colleagues around me are mentors to me at school, and I hopefully am a mentor to them around them as well. All right. Thanks, Lainey. Thank you, Angela. Have a fabulous day, and keep on being gritty in your situations and find people to talk to about that. The last thing for December 8, 2025, as I'm wrapping up Fresh Air at 5 this morning, I listened to The Creative Classroom with John Spencer. He brings us an episode that caught my attention called The Human Advantage, 9 skills we can't afford to lose in a world of AI. I'm like, skills, that's great. That's incredible that we as humans have things that the machines can't do. This is a fascinating episode. Take a listen to it. It came out on January 7th. Don't know the episode number, but you should listen to it because he talks about things like confusion as a catalyst for learning. Talks about slow learning. He talks about divergent thinking compared to convergent thinking that machines do so well. Talks about a number of other things that I can't recall exactly right now, but they are human skills that we need to develop in our students and be part of our learning process. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Without further ado, have a fabulous day. Take a listen to this episode. Okay, bye. Hey, PLN, January 9, 2025. Yesterday when I was recording, I was living in the future of December 8th, 2025 for all 4 segments. So just my apologies for that. Got distracted by the content I was listening to. Today I listened to episode 114 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast as Jake Miller has on guest
Adam Sparks,
who is an educator and a EdTech tool developer, talking about using AI detection tools or not. Should we be doing that? And the answer is no. The reasons why is because they're not good for process of showing students about their learning, and talking about that is more a punitive problem. There's a lot of great content in this episode. Take a listen. This is only part 1 of 2. So episode 115 next week will continue. Thanks, Jake. Have a good day. Bye. One more thing for January 9, 2025. All right, I was talking about episode 114 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast.
Adam Sparks.
So he's talking about AI detection tools and whether we should use them or not. The process that we're going through with teaching students how to write is the important part of writing. How do we get there? Because with tools that can, like AI, chatbots, that can generate content, isn't that the answer, teacher? That you just want this stuff as opposed to caring how I got there? The ends don't justify the means. That was a saying. I don't know where that came from exactly, but that is not the case. The means matter, and how do we get there matters. So that is important. Take a listen to episode 114 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast for more, and next week as well. Thanks, guys. Okay, bye. Good morning, PLN. It is January 10, 2025. I'm here in my garage as it's pouring rain outside and like 2 degrees Celsius. I can't think of any time colder that I've been when I've been out in the rain at that temperature. -2 Celsius is even warmer because it's so dry. And yes, anyhow, as I'm listening this morning to episode 301 of the Easy EdTech podcast with Monica Burns, she brings us an interview with Dan Fitzpatrick, who is the author of the brand new release book this past week, Infinite Education. And they talk about things you need to look out for AI in 2025. Congratulations, Monica, on stepping into the next century of episodes for Easy EdTech Podcast. This is episode 301. I'll be right back. Just 1 second. One more thing for January 10, 2025. Continuing my thoughts on episode 301 of the Easy EdTech podcast. Dan Fitzpatrick and Monica Burns talk about how AI is settling down in our world-ish, and how the surprise of it is kind of coming off, but we now have to figure out how we can innovate our education system to work with and teach our students how to use it ethically and properly, and prepare them for the job market, as they're likely going to be challenged or asked if they have skills with tools like ChatGPT and other chatbots to be assistive in the work that they will do with companies. It's crazy that we have, this opportunity, but we need to be working with our students and talking to them about it. Thanks so much, Dan. Thanks so much, Monica. And we'll talk to you soon. Get Dan's book. Okay, bye-bye. The last thing for January 10, 2025. It's the end of the week, first week back to school after the winter break, and it has been full and rich. A lot of things have happened. This weekend, we're families heading off to Manning Park. I'm not wearing my Manning Park toque today, but I will this weekend as we're up at Manning Park. Enjoying the winter up there, the snow. We're going to go see snow this weekend, which is great. We haven't had any in town yet, which I'm thankful for. So it'll be a good weekend of rest. Report cards are coming soon for secondary. Exams are happening already for a number of students at school. It's been a good week. Salmon Tank is starting up, and I'm excited about the opportunity to show our students some coho eggs next week and watch them grow into little fry that we're going to release. All right, hope you're having a good week. We'll talk to you soon. And, I forgot one thing. I'll be right back.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at FreshAirAtFive. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.
The very last thing for January 10, 2025, I've put out a call for you to have your voice on this podcast. If you're listening to this and you listen to it more than even just once, I would really like to hear from you about how Fresh Air at 5 makes a difference for you. This is episode 200 coming up next week, and I would like to include some listener voices. I've provided a link to a form in the show notes. I have put that out on Twitter as well and Blue Sky, so you can go look me up and get that form to complete hopefully by January 16th, which is next Thursday, so that I can get an audio file or a video from you to include in Fresh Air at 5 to make it a wonderful celebration. I've already got one submission and looking for some more from some of you. Thanks so much. Have a great Friday. Bye-bye.